ואומרת הצדיק רבי חיים פינטו, באמת הרבי משה, הקדוש ברוך הוא בעזרת השם, each and every one בקהילה, ברכה והצלחה, שמיים הגדולה, בעזרת השם שבת, תפפיק שפע, for all the קהילה, בעזרת השם to have a year full of good things to come, amen. Now, Baruch Hashem, this week, we open up the Torah, we start the Torah from the beginning of Parasha Bereshit. And we know about that Parasha Bereshit is one of the most deep parashot in the entire Torah Kula. So to start to talk about where could we find little chidushim in Parasha Bereshit, it's from now until no end of time we can find sodot, secrets that are hidden that have never been found in the book of Bereshit. So I would just like to touch Abotai, one simple thing. It's very, very applicable. It's really the core of who we are as Jews and the core of where we get our shefa as Jews. In Abotai, in this week's Parasha, we're going to read the entire Seder, the order of the creation of the world. Where HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes day by day, Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Yom Revi, Yom Chamishi, every single day of the creation, what He created within and all its details. In the end of that Seder, in the end of that order, we read something like this. Yom HaShishi, Vaychu lo HaShamayim v'Haaretz, v'chol tzeva'ah, Vaycha Elohim et Yom HaShivi, v'chol malachto. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, 6 days He created the world, and on the 7th day He rested. The Mishnah Berurah Chafetz Chaim, in his Akdama, in the introduction, he says something beautiful about that pasuk and how important it really is for all of us to grab onto this mitzvah of Shabbat and to understand it really it complete in a complete manner. Chafetz Chaim says, what is Shabbat? Shabbat Abotai is essentially something much bigger than we can possibly imagine. It is the core of our emunah. When we look at Shabbat, it cannot be a mitzvah that at every single day we have the possibility or the ability to do. That's not what Shabbat is. Shabbat is a person getting up and announcing and declaring that not only that he is Jewish, of course, but that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. Well, Shabbat is not just a mitzvah. Shabbat is giving the malchut, giving the kingdomship in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why we call Shabbat not only the makor of the be'acha, but also the makor of the emunah. Because if a person cannot come to a place of completing Shabbat and keeping Shabbat in its entirety, how can you look at HaKadosh Baruch Hu and keep the mitzvot as their creator when we're not even able to give him that recognition in a look? You created the world in 6 days, the 7th day you rested, so we're following that. So really, Rabotai, the first step that any person needs to do as a Jew is perfect his Shabbat. Not only perfect his Shabbat in the halachot, but perfect his Shabbat in how he acts, on the simcha that he does, on his minhagim that he does. Because really, Rabotai, this is the essence of our entire Torah. It says, Rabotai, in the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, if I'm not mistaken, in page Kuf Yud Chet, something that is incredible. It says, if a person even does avodah zara, kedor enosh, what does that mean? It means if a person does idol worship, but not just idol worship like the worst generation of idol worship that ever existed, which was Dor Enosh. It says in the time Dor Enosh, the metal was talking, there was objects that they were talking how much high level of tum'ah they were, or low level of tum'ah, and you can call it. The Gemara says if a person even does avodah zara, like the generation of Dor Enosh, but he keeps the Shabbat, mukhalin lo al kol avonotav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He will forget him for all his sins. All his sins will be completely cleaned out. Why is that? So the question we can all come to is that it's a little bit hard to understand such a Gemara. Because what, you keep Shabbat, you go and you sin all the entire week, Shabbat you keep and say it. That's it, you are tzaddik amur, you can now open up a bit knesset and do Kabbalah. That's not how it works. So how can we say such a thing? So the way that we explain it is something like this. Shabbat, it is the makor of the emunah. It is the core of our emunah. If we can hold on to the Shabbat, it's not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forget our sins. It's that the Shabbat itself will not allow us to sin throughout the entire week. With the koach, the influence, the emunah that we receive from the Shabbat is something that there is no chance a person can continue on doing those sins, even like Dor Enosh, and not get that and not do teshuvah. And that's why the Shabbat is so important. If now Rabotai, the tzaddikim of the Chachmei Kabbalah teach us something Rabotai that we see so much in this generation of how we prepare ourselves for Shabbat. Because like we said, it's not just keeping the Shabbat, it's how we act out the Shabbat, really to absorb as much shefa and kedusha as possible. So the Chachamim in the Kabbalah teach us something about day, which is scary, but it is incredible how in this generation we see that. In Abotai it says, on Shabbat, Erev Shabbat, Kadosh Baruch Hu brings down to the world what? So Zohar Kadosh says in many places, Pores Kanfei Shekhinah, the wings of the Shekhinah open up upon the world, and those wings are essentially the descent of the Shekhinah HaKadosha, and with the descent of the Shekhinah comes down a second pair of Naran, a second pair of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. So essentially a person receives an extra Shefa and as well receives the Shekhinah within his home. Now Botai it says, incredible. It says, what happens if a person is not in the right position to receive the Shekhinah? Now Botai in life, if you want to receive whatever it is, Parasha, Shekhinah, Kedusha, long life, there's one thing that is very important, it's the position. So what happens if a person is chas v'shalom backslid, or chas v'shalom not in the good mood? Bichlal, the Chidah says that Erev Shabbat, a man needs to run out from his house. Why? Because Erev Shabbat, the Satan, he comes and fights with all his strength to try to bring a person in a position where he's not worthy of receiving the Shekhinah. Well, what Arizal said, if a person is upset, he loses all his neshama. His neshama leaves him when he's upset. He's left just with a nefesh, like a dog. A dog has a nefesh. When a person is upset, he's left only with a nefesh, like an animal. Nefesh chaya, say it. When a person is upset or he's sad, he's not positioned correctly in order to receive the Shekhinah. But I give the best example like this. The best example. It's like you can take a cup and you have a faucet of water. I hold the cup backwards and I put it under the water and I say, look, how come the cup is not filling of water? Because the cup is backwards. So until you don't position the cup in the right manner, the cup will not collect any water. That's the same thing with us. If we don't position ourselves correctly to receive the Shekhinah, we will not receive the Shekhinah. One of the ways of taking out that our position of receiving Shefa is anger, it's not being happy, it's having thoughts of stress, lack of emunah parasha, lack of emunah of zivug, lack of emunah of avodah, whatever it is. The Zohar Kadosh, Arizal, all Chazal say, Erev Shabbat, the Satan, he wants to fight and he does everything in his strength to make us sad, to make us stressed, to completely make us crooked, to not be able to receive such Shekhinah, such Baracha. And what is the result of that? Something that is great. It's scary, but it's incredible. The result of that is simple. Zohar Kadosh says that on Shabbat, Erev Shabbat, and the Shama, and the Nefesh, and the Ruach, the second pair of that spiritual piece, it comes down to the world. And the Shekhinah, when it comes down to the world, it looks for the person. And suddenly he sees the person not in position, or he sees him upset, or he sees him fighting with his wife, or he sees him fighting with his son, or fighting with his friend, or not be'emunah. The Shekhinah, that extra pair of neshama, cannot enter into him. So it says the Shekhinah in that extra nara, that extra pair of neshama, they search in the world trying to find a body to rescue. Because they were sent down, but they have nowhere to go now. So essentially a person takes a piece of the Shekhinah and the neshama and sends it to exile. With the entire Shabbat, it says, "Mishotetet ba'olam." It floats in the world seeking a place to rest and finds no place to rest. And on Motzei Shabbat, when Shabbat ends, what happens? When Gehenom is turned back on, it says that Shekhinah and that Neshama and that Nefesh and that Ruach get completely consumed and they get their energy drawn out from the Chitzonim, from the outer, from the bad side. Where essentially a person is taking the secondary Neshama and throwing them to the wolves, throwing them to the impurities, throwing them to the Sitra Acha'ah on Motzei Shabbat when he is not positioned correctly on Erev Shabbat. And what is the result on the person? This is what it says. It's amazing. It says a person starts to lose hope in life. A person starts to be sad. A person starts to be depressed. Why? Because as a Jew, you need that extra neshama once a week. As a Jew, you need that Shekhinah in order to give you that koach to continue the entire week. But now suddenly, you're not receiving that Shekhinah, so you feel emptiness. And it says the person starts to blame, I'm sad because that's not working. And not satisfied because that's not working. I'm not satisfied because of that. And I'm depressed because of that. And I don't have emunah because of that. And he searches to find excuses and to blames where to put that emptiness, that sadness, that yeush, that lack of even simcha to talk to one to another, that lack of simcha to celebrate with another, lack of simcha to go study Torah. Because he dried his neshama. And that is all the result of what? Of one thing. It's the result of not positioning ourselves correctly for Erev Shabbat. We see this in this generation, like no other generation. We see all the time, half the people, they're walking around and they're lost, they're hungry, they're not satisfied, they're not happy, they're not content with their life. Rabotai, it comes from one place. It comes from not being positioned correctly Erev Shabbat. So now, Rabotai, we're on Parasha Parasha, beginning of the year, beginning of the Torah, first Shabbat of the year. Rabotai, let's Be'ezat Hashem change our habit now. And if we change our habit now, Be'ezat Hashem, the entire year to come, we will be able truly to receive not only that shefa of spirituality, but that shefa of spirituality translates to shefa of material, of gashmiut. And that's about what we should start to take upon ourselves now. Erev Shabbat, Rabotai, we make the Erev Shabbat like a Bet HaMikdash. The person has to prepare all these things hours before Shabbat in order that when he enters into the Shabbat, he has peace, he has shalom, he has simcha, and by doing so, Rabbi Hashem, he will receive all the shechina and all the baruch. Rabbi Pinto.
Quick question. If you miss the boat on Erev Shabbat, on Shabbat, like in the beginning or whatever, is there something to do to receive the Aharon?
You know, it's like you take a barrel of wine, you spilled it, you have a cup, like we said, and you have a sink, you spill the barrel of the wine into the sink. Okay, the whole barrel of wine went down the drain. And you're still holding your cup. Can you achieve it again? No, why? Because the time when it comes down, that's when you can put your hand under and grab. Once there's nothing coming down anymore, there's nothing to grab either. So it's a problem. So Erev Shabbat. Erev Shabbat is when it comes down 3 times during our prayers of Arvit. In the Baruch Hu, in Mizmor LeDavid, in the Ashkivenu. That's the 3 times of Naran. Chaya Yechida, we don't understand, we don't know when it comes down. But we have to be ready when it comes down. If we miss the moment when it's spilling down to the world, we lose the opportunity of grabbing that extra Shekhinah and Bacha. So B'ezat Hashem, באמת הצדיק רבי חיים פינטו, ב'ezat Hashem, וכל הצדיקים כולם, והקדוש ברוך הוא ב'ezat Hashem, give everyone big ברכה והצלחה, בסייעתא דשמיא גדולה, and this week ב'ezat Hashem will be a week of great success and big news to come.